So I was inspired, and I wanted to just kind of get these things out. But I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm not like the Pod Safe America people who are just like, oh yeah, vote the party line. I mean, I generally support the Democrats in this time, but really, I would like ranked choice voting. I would like viable third parties. I would like campaign finance reform. I would like a just some kind of recommitment to like seriousness in politics, civility, rationality, some kind of counterbalance to lowest common denominator. Because everything that we admired in the inspirational presidents that we had was that they lifted us up, as like the opposite of what is happening right now. Like I said earlier, I think that society, like it's unreal that of all the people, it's that guy, and his base is like the least informed people in the country. That's who forms his like power base, and this is an incredibly well educated country. Like there's like especially like now, like compared to like the 1850s or something like that. Like we as a species have learned so much more, and so much of that is here and like started here. Like what we think of as the modern world did not start in like Botswana or something. Like we invented a lot of this shit. And like there are all the people who are educated in why our modern world like operates the way that it does, and like how it could be better, more rational, more empathetic, more equitable. A lot of these people live here. They deserve the megaphone. I was just thinking like, what if the TV, instead of just like being like peddling political influence all day every day, and like whatever the fuck the local news is supposed to be, like up next at 11, two people got murdered and another guy got raped. Why is that, of all of the things that could be broadcasting on news stations all day, why that? Like what if like they just replaced, like ABC was just like next on ABC, part 64 of our series on the science of electricity and magnetism. And they just played that on repeat. And we just all got like, if you wanted a free, gradual, passive education in like the very like, interesting and like marketable understanding of like electromagnetism, it's literally one of the like the foundational aspects of our physical reality, and it's like could like open young minds to become like electricians and skilled tradesmen and things like that. What if they just played that on repeat every fucking week or month or whatever? Like this would be just you could argue, I guess, like, well, nobody would watch it, but like I don't know. I'd probably like give that a spin at some point. I'd be like, oh, okay, wow. So then like the magnet turns electric, and the electric, okay, all right. It'd certainly be better than like most of the brain rot that's coming out of like mainstream media anyway. But there is so much value in the intellectual content of this country, and like the various like forms of intelligence that came together to create this country as it is. And we don't see that every day. You got to go like to the library, and I go to the library and there's like nobody there. There's this huge cathedral of books, and there's just like one homeless guy jerking off on the computer or something and getting kicked out by the librarian. And then like librarians are like super smart people. They're really intelligent people. And like I'm sorry, but like, the opinion of one librarian is worth. I look, under the law, we're all protected by free speech, but I respect the opinion of the average librarian with an MLS degree than the average person who would dare let themselves be seen with one of those MAGA hats on. You know, that like that is the the lady with a master's in library science is an opinion that is so much more well informed and grounded in not just reality but rationality and intelligence and empathy and a spirit of like openness. Like the whole idea of libraries is like not capitalistic. It's like it's practically utopian. The idea that we'll have centers of learning and knowledge in every community for free. Like that's great, you know. And that's a really precious thing. And then I go there and it's fucking empty. Like, come on, man, use it or lose it, man. Like we libraries are awesome. I don't know. They have a maker's space there. There's that attracts some people over there, but like, I mean, like, is Xbox really that like addictive? Like, I mean, like, we just cannot like break free from the smartphones and all this shit. Like, there's so much more other things to do than the infosphere brain rot bullshit. And if like one of the prices of the internet is that it like finally corrupted politics irretrievably, then like what, fuck it. I'm a child of the internet. I grew up. I got my first internet connection at the age of 12, and I've just used the internet like every single day ever since then. But like the way that boomers used TV, and their parents had the radio, I use the internet. And if that led to this prolonged chapter in idiocy, then fuck it. I'll throw it away. That's fine. It's not worth it. There's got to be something else other than this bizarre timeline, Got to be something else. And there is so much more else. So much good stuff. Like so much like just other ways to organize our lives. I like money, Well, I like money though, but like, what I mean is like, it doesn't have to be this like evil system that just sucks our souls dry. But like, it's kind of like the idea is like, well, it's hard to like run a what do you call it? Like you go like make one of those drop out of society and create a commune. Well, what usually happens with those situations is that like basically like everybody fucks each other, and then a bunch of drama happens, and then somebody finally gets tired of like having to like farm every piece of food you make, and then they just give up. That's what happens to a lot of communes. And I don't think I personally have the fortitude to go to do a commune. I don't want to compost. I don't, I'm not really that crunchy granola, but I believe in, and I understand why somebody would go vegan, or like dedicate themselves to yoga or these stereotypically leftist kind of things, or like just kind of, I'm generally sympathetic, and I'm sympathetic to utopian visions as well. But like, the cool thing that we have in the United States is that it's like, ideally, it's a good middle ground when it's not tilting into like robber baron shit. Like the income inequality is like kind of the shadow version of that. But like, ideally, like it's just like a place where we can meet in the market square, even if we don't agree on like church denomination or political ideology. Commerce gives us a reason to interact with each other, to work with each other, to learn and meet people from different walks of life than us. And it's kind of like a rational middle ground that's not affected by the irrationality of emotion and spiritual belief, And it's just a lot more fun when it's like more accessible to the average person, and it's not just being juiced from every fucking angle by people who do not need more money, you know? Like you know, just like everything that we think of as like when America was special is when it like had a larger distribution of wealth in the 99% than it does today. This is facts. And it's like, you know, when you see how like a big corporation kind of spends money, or how like a government agency spends money, it's just like, it's not like when we think about like, oh, I got $20 till payday. It's just like, okay, well, we have to allocate X amount of money, and based on local laws and our regulations, this is how much like a license for software costs, so we have to spend that much. This is how much you need for your per diem spending money, so we have to outlay that much per person. This is how much labor costs in this area, so we have to spend this much for this person. So the total budget, and this is like the materials and the whatever else. So it's just like, do we have the budget for this outlay? Okay, so then we can create things and make things that we want. We can make what we want happen by outlaying this funds, and that's the cost of it in the current market environment. So we have this much power to create what we want. It's just, you know, you gotta eat. You gotta eat lunch. You gotta pay your rent. So if you want to hire human beings to do the things you want them to do, you gotta outlay this much money. And if you want to borrow steel, you gotta like pay this much money, you know. And it's not like, you know, the kind of moralizing that we think about as of money in our personal lives. So like, it's just like, money is power, money is speech, money is power to shape reality. Where I was going with that is kind of like, we think of money as something that comes from a job, but what I was trying to say with the way that organizations think of money, like government agencies or corporations, especially large corporations, it's just kind of like, you know, money is like a unit of organizing your like outlay of expenditure. Like if you're trying to do something, it's like, okay, we'll just give you the enough fun coupons to make that happen. And it doesn't have to be tied to like this kind of um, moralizing idea of like, you know, you got to work hard for your money, and if you don't, you deserve to just be homeless. And like, it's just a way of organizing resources in a numerical amount, you know. And we can, you know, kind of intuitively understand the idea that everybody deserves food and shelter, you know. And like, you know, once you get beyond just kind of working for a paycheck, like there are some ludicrous ways that money gets spent. Like, not really saying that this is ludicrous, but it may be a lot easier than you realize to get an artist's grant or to get grants for various other things, just free money, because that money has been allocated uh, by governments and you know, the civil sector to get certain things done. So if you qualify for those things, because what does money represent? What does debt represent? Money represents, like, on some level, like a will to do something in society, a desire to make something real in society, you know? And, you know, based on like fractional reserve banking and the modern monetary theory, like, money is, in a macroeconomic sense, it's made up. You know, that doesn't mean that like I want, you know, the California government to buy me a pony, but like, you know, like thinking critically about like the value of investments is really important. But um, our ability, like looking at the total society, if you have like the power of Congress, what do you actually want to see in society? What are you going to use the government's authority to make real in society? From that level, like there's not the same kinds of limits to money and to financial investments the way there is when you think about your limited household budget. Is kind of what I'm getting at. So, when they say like, oh, we can't afford the Department of Education or we can't afford food stamps. No, yes you can. Yes, you absolutely can. Because what does it really come down to? It comes down to people going to offices. And then in the food stamps case, like the government subsidizing food for people so they don't starve. And we already know that like practically what, like half of all the food that's like grown and created in this country gets thrown away ultimately. Like we can afford food stamps. That is not a loss of value, and it's not incentivizing people being on the dole the way that it's set up these days. Um, it's not like creating perverse incentives the way that like Republicans may, or conservatives may argue. Certainly, like I mean, if I would say like honestly, like dollar for dollar of all of the things that you can do to improve quality of life for the most people in like a utilitarian sense, having some kind of like straight up food benefit is one of the best, dollar for dollar. Like there's a gap there. There's a certain number of people who are in lower economic conditions, are in flux. Maybe they're young, maybe they're poor, maybe they're going through a life crisis. Maybe you know the capitalistic economy is not providing jobs for them. Like we want that to be there. Of all of the things that the government does to stimulate the economy and society of the population, like providing food for people in tight spots is like that's an easy one. That's an easy one. And if there was more of a recognition of the like kind of how every resident of the United States is a stakeholder in our broader society and in the local community, that like part of the idea of the Bill of Rights is that you have rights even if you don't have a title, even if you don't have money. You have inherent rights. And the idea of equity is that those rights don't just extend to like the minimums that are acknowledged by courts, but that like if you're walking around here, like you shouldn't be going hungry. You shouldn't struggle to find a roof over your head. Like we've solved these problems. We can make sure that everybody's like taken care of at least. And the problem of homelessness is more complex than that. But on some level, it's kind of like you're working a full-time job, you shouldn't be struggling. Like, and that's all just based on like how the numbers get set. And like nothing in this economy is purely free market. Okay, everything is arranged in some way. Everything is the borders and the rules of play are defined in some way. It's just that as it stands, the um, the the interests of the average person is not taken enough into account. These interests exist. You could say, well, you didn't work for that, or like, why should a corporation? What does a corporation owe you? And it's a lot. A corporation owes us a lot. Like I said, you don't get to be Jeff Bezos if us and the government that represents us hadn't gone out of its way to build the U.S. Postal Service. It didn't have to do that, but it did that on behalf of us. It did that on behalf of us. It did that with the power that we, the people, endowed to our government. And I wish that, like, I personally, in the American system, the United States has a, like, it's part of the American spirit to have a huge amount of skepticism of the government, suspicion of the government. And I think, frankly, like, it's, if you still let Trump happen, that's like, it wasn't very valuable then. Like you literally, like, basically let the whole thing that we were worried about with the government happen with the guy telling you that he's going to protect you from the people who are going to do that to the government. So now he's doing that to the government. So what was the point of, like, the Second Amendment nuts? What was all the point of the libertarians? Like, you're the ones who voted for this guy. You're the ones who voted for this fucking, like, government overreach and tyranny and shit. The freedom people. Well, I don't trust the government people. So, like, stupid. Okay? But I wish that, like, the federal government, just local and state governments were like, I wish there was more of, like, a public sentiment that, like, these are our governments. They work for us. And they are like this big pool that we all chip into because it costs less to just buy in bulk. And it's like this subscription service that we subscribe to. Now, of course, government tyranny and overreach is still something to worry about. But again, if the current political culture did not prevent that from happening, then be open to, like, new perspectives. Because I think what this is there's been so much cynicism for so long that the cynicism just, like, became reality. It's like we had Biden talking about, like, America is a special place. Nobody can fill the role in the world that the United States fills. And America is this place that's always at the forefront. It's a place of possibilities. That's what he said. I don't know if you ever heard that, because you probably just, all your exposure to Biden is like MSN and, like, Fox News telling you that, he's just an old stupid person. He's a liar. You never actually, like, listened to any of his speeches, but or anything he had to say. He was on, like, Howard Stern, and like, in the 2024 election, and, like, he sounded like a person. He just sounded like a normal person. He was talking about, like, things his dad told him about life and stuff. Like, just, like, Trump is not a person. He's like this, like, horrifying cartoon character who wants to fuck his own daughter or some shit. Like, he's just, like, in bed with, like, the darkest impulses of human existence. Like, just the least relatable person possible. And, like, Biden was just talking about, like, growing up in, like, the 30s and 40s, and, like, his dad would send him down to the corner with a nickel and shit like that. And it's like, that's, like, folksy Americana. Like, seriously, like, how did this guy get this much hate? I can't believe it. But like, you had that, and then like, everybody was just like, nah, fuck that. So, like, everybody's like, nah, they're both sides. They're both the same. This 34 count felon rapist who wants to, horribly pervert the spirit of my nation and turn it into a fascist theocracy. Totally exactly the same as the lady who wants to, like, make it easier to start a small business. Those are two exactly the same sides. So everybody was cynical, so you got cynicism. You got to the guy who's just like, oh, America, shit. And it's like, well, it will be. He's telling you his platform. Yeah. It's a disgrace. Yes, you are. He's telling you what he is. Every word out of his mouth, every accusation is confession. It's like, well, it's possible to believe in hope. in the United States, but like it's not like it require like you know everybody like gets on the Democrats for like why don't you just like make the policies like we should do Bernie Sanders, we should just do the whole progressive, like why aren't you progressive enough? And it's like because you don't back them up in the electorate when it comes time to vote for them and to make your support known in off years. You just let the right wing spin machine control the narrative, and they will never like they're stupid too. Like it's not like there's any rational process there. They're grifters making a buck off of being contrarian. Okay, there you will never get solutions by like consulting the Tucker Carlsons of the world. You know, you're never actually going to like make progress. I think of myself as a progressive. I think you know being open to diversity from a strong central pillar of just personal liberty and respect for the value of the individual person and for difference of opinion, like being able to be open to like more than two sides, but just being able to be open to like a unique perspective and being like instead of us needing to like discriminate against that, outlaw that, or indoctrinate that or socialize that into some kind of like more socially acceptable monoculture. I think we need like acceptance of unique perspectives because like all the cool shit we have from modern society like came from somebody who was like I'm gonna think something that nobody ever thought before instead of just picking from one of two already existing sides, you know. It's like that Margaret Mead quote. It's like, you know, never underestimate the power of smart people in small groups. I don't know. I forgot it. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Good. This quote still exists in my reality. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And that's true. Like all the things that ever really happened were not going to come from the power structure that already existed. It's not going to come from the people who are already sitting at the top of that power structure. They're already comfortable. Like it's like people who had like a new idea, you know, something different. And up until recently, I always thought of the United States as somewhere that was like it had the framework of civil liberty on the ground enough to accommodate such a vast variety of intellectual differences. And the political process just like stops that all down to a binary A B choice. And it's like there is no B. Like the B is an illusion. Most of it's just like A is the right answer, and then there's just some people going, nuh-uh. Well, but like, what if I string together two unrelated facts and one of the facts isn't real? I just heard it on a right wing talk show. So, like, what about that? Like, that's like the state of our fucking political situation now. Is that it's just like half of it's just based on like I heard something that was incorrect and that's forming but it like confirmed my previously held biases, so that's why I'm not voting for like healthcare for people because like I just listened to a guy who told me enough times that it's okay to like hate or be irresponsible or not take care of problems or whatever, but like I listen to him every night and he's comforting to me, so you know, what about that? Did you ever think about that? Like, that's not that's not a real like marketplace of ideas. You know, like that's it's like brain rot. It's fucking brain rot. President brain rot. That's where we're at. But yeah, I have to believe that you know if this country was able to get here, um, you know, it's harnessing a large amount of intelligence and there must be some path forward. There's an incredible amount of wealth on the ground, material wealth, financial wealth, intellectual health, wealth, spiritual wealth in this country. And I have to believe that like that didn't all just go out the window January 20th this year, and it didn't. I just think that the megaphone should go back to some people who are more thoughtful. On the other hand, you ever notice like under Biden, like there were long stretches where I didn't think about politics at all. It was great. I could just live my fucking life. I want that. I don't want to be thinking about politics every fucking 6 hours. You know? I just want to, like the idea. The whole idea of the office of the president is that we designate one man to kind of be the executive. It's kind of like if you have like a trust for your estate, and there's like the beneficiaries of the trust, but you don't give the beneficiaries of the trust the signing pen because then they would just sign themselves all the money, right? But it does require like some management, and ideally it'd be good management. So you designate somebody to be the executor of the trust. That's what the presidency is supposed to be. It's like explicitly designed that way, that it's supposed to be not a king, not a ruler, not a ruler at all. Like it's not like just some democratic equivalent of a king or a despot or a dictator. It's like an entirely different idea of what civic leadership is. It's like he's the executor of the board or something like that. He's not supposed to be like wielding power, ruling. It's supposed to be like he's like the nice grandpa or uncle that we decided, you know what, we'll let you just handle the national trust. We'll just let you handle the national interests because those greedy corporations aren't going to do it. And if anybody in the power structure of this country is going to work for the people, it's the government. So that's why, like I say, like the suspicion of the government is kind of like you're kind of at odds with your own interests, because it's certainly like the corporations have zero requirement whatsoever to give a shit about your interests, and their whole job is to amorally make as much money as possible. That's the entire purpose of the existence of a corporation. Could we structure it different? Sure. But if anybody in this structure is going to advocate for the citizens, it's the government. And the citizens have to hold the government to account. And if you want to hold the corporations to account, you got to get the government to do what you want. And it will. It is responsive. Like this year, we've seen the difference between, at the start, everybody was kind of bewildered and not sure what to do. And then like people were just like, okay, well, what the fuck are we going to do about this? And people just started engaging. And like it did make a difference. Trump would love to have like rolled right over all of us with whatever he wanted, but he faced so much pushback. And I don't doubt that he and his people are nefarious, but like he is, lazy and like he's not just like out there with a bulldozer. Like there are these institutions, and as much as we can bolster them from the citizen side, the better off we're going to be. And the more that we support those, civic servants who like embody the spirit of public service and not people who are just in it for bribes and lobbying and personal prestige, like the people who are actually like, coming to it from a public servant, community organizer, civic kind of servant kind of spirit, we want to support these people, and we want to show them that we're listening, and that when they have to make hard decisions in Congress and state houses, they're going to be backed up by their constituents. And it's like a two-way relationship, like leaders are so much more powerful like when they have a mandate. And you know, Kamala could have given you a lollipop if you'd actually shown up for her. You know, like it works that way. That's the idea and the responsibility of participatory representative democracy. Is that like we really are the ultimate authority in this country. Like the power really is with us. And then we delegate that to the government. That is really how it works, unless you just abdicate your responsibility as citizens, as people, and you don't understand the responsibility of the birthright of being a resident of this country, you know, or you're cynical about it. And like I said, there's an entire industry of right wing buffoons in blazers trying to convince you to be cynical of virtually everything of value in this country. So, you know, if you want that bias to be confirmed, you can certainly find some guy getting paid $20 million a year who will never know that you exist to tell you that every night. And then he'll write a book and cash in, or maybe he'll go too far and get canceled, and he'll just go tour the nation spewing his vitriol on podcasts and the lecture circuit. Be just is that really who you want like to take guidance from for like the future of this country? Like I fucking sure as fuck do not. I don't even really like the equivalents on the left. Like I'm glad that they're kind of out there at a moment like this, like Midas touch or whatever. But I always thought like you know the Pod Save America people are like playing too much inside baseball, and they're like, you know, they care more about like winning the partisan politics thing, like the horse race, than they actually care about like the kind of the well being of the country as a whole. You know, and again, it's like they have their part. Like I worked for the Democratic Party in one election, and you know we won that year. We had a good year in '06. We turned Congress, kind of ended the whole Bush phenomenon, and I walked door to door, canvassed for the local state senate candidate, and for you know the rest of the ticket. You know, Phil Angelides was running for governor that year. So was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, but my boss was this guy from Sacramento, and he was a great guy. You know. Very intelligent and educated about issues, but he came to everything from a electoral perspective, and he was you know he was like a career Democrat in Sacramento, and I'm not even knocking it. Like you know, these people have to exist for the political, you know, the kind of political system that we have. Like I said, I would prefer a vast marketplace of viable parties that can build coalitions, and that's possible with things like ranked choice voting. It's going to take work to get there, but in any case, I understand that you know, with parties, even in countries where there are a lot of parties, you're going to have people who's like, yeah, I'm the guy who like works for the party. I organize this shit. And he had his perspective of like, you know, I want to get like the ballot to just have one check, and you can vote all blue or all red. And at the time, I was I think it was like 23 at that time. No, I turned 21 right before the election. Um, I was, you know, I was like kind of idealistic, and I hated that idea. But you know, honestly, I still hate it. Like, I don't want things to get kind of like compressed down into such a binary. Like, the idea of voting does require some responsibility, as we've seen in the past cycle. It's not just two equivalent sides. Okay, like it's fucking not. Okay. I got a lot more to say, but hopefully I'll actually like post this in some way. But I'm going to express myself. That's what I have to say.